Welcome and thank you for joining us on our first episode of Behind Closed Doors. Before we get started, I wanted to speak to you about our podcast, who we are, what are we doing here on this podcast, what are we going to talk about. Well, as you may already know, the name of the podcast is called Behind Closed Doors. The reason to why I wanted to name this podcast Behind Closed Doors is because a lot of things do happen behind closed doors. So this podcast will talk about a lot of cases that are related to murders, kidnappings, friendships that fail and are no longer friends, family issues, family troubles, abusive relationships, and it's important to spread the word, to talk about it, and know that you are not alone. And this podcast for me is super important. So I will be reading a lot of other people's cases. I'm not a professional, I'm not a journalist whatsoever, so whatever research I do, it's already on the internet. Now let's dive into today's first episode. But before we begin with today's episode, there is a lot of trigger warning, so I wanted to tell you first before I begin reading the stories. So there is mention of SA, emotional abuse, domestic violence. If this is too heavy for you or perhaps it triggers you, please skip today's episode. It's in a way heavy, even for me, and I just don't want to trigger you, so please skip this episode. I will be uploading a new episode very soon, so stay tuned. But one of the first stories, which I did find on Reddit, was about a lady that just exploded. I think she was sick and tired of her husband. So let's read this story. Let me see. Okay. So she says, I blew up and felt disgusted about it. I've been married for 13 years to an emotionally and physically abusive man. I don't know what the heck happened. All I know is I saw red and spilled his Red Bull all over him. Red Bull is an energy drink. And she started punching him and pulled the wheel of the car to try and crash. I think I'm having a mental breakdown. I'm just so tired. I'm emotionally drained and I'm just at the end of my rope. I've lost all of my identity. I've lost my faith in God and myself and everything. I long and dream of death every day. I just can't bring myself to do it and leave my 2 kids behind with him. So the fight started because he asked me to help him with the RVs. He repairs RVs for a living. I told him yes, as soon as we get home I'll help him. He then started to say that he needs to hire some help, and I said every hired help I've ever found, they wind up quitting or you fire them a day in because they don't do the job the way you want it. So he's a perfectionist. It has to be his way or no way, and he's not good at teaching. He yells and wants you to know and read his mind. So he got mad and he started driving faster and said, is there any redeeming quality you find in me, or have I always been a pause to you? So I said, why are you getting angry? Because I said you always fire the hired people. He started yelling and telling me to answer his question. So I said, no, I don't find any redeeming quality in you. The argument progressed from there, and he started telling me I'm always reflecting, and I'm always abusive, and a pause, and I'm psychotic, and that for 4 days I've been eating his heart out. And that's where a switch just flipped, because I haven't even talked to him for 4 days. I don't bother him. I hardly talk to him, yet somehow I'm always doing something to upset him or piss him off. It never fails. So I just blew up and said, oh, I'm psychotic. Well, I'll show you what a psychotic person does. And I took his Red Bull and spilled it all over him while he was driving, and then started punching him and pulling the wheel. I don't know what got into me, but I can't lie, it made me feel a whole lot better. What the heck is wrong with me? She asked. I think it's sad. It's sad to be in a relationship where there's emotional abuse, because it does affect your mental state. It affects you as a person. So I don't know much about this person. She just, wanted to express what happened in this post, and because I'm reading it and read it. But I hope that she's doing well, and I hope that she got out of this abusive relationship. Okay, moving on to the next story. And this one, the title is just crazy. So it says right here, the day I started planning my escape after 30 years in a narcissistic marriage. She says, there wasn't a big blowout or a hospital visit, no final straw anyone else would notice. It was just a question, a loaded, venom-laced, innocent question from a man I'd spent nearly 3 decades trying to please. Did you talk to the grocery store owner yesterday? And I had, briefly, a neighborly hello, but somehow this became evidence of betrayal. Cue the screaming, the spittle, the gaslighting, and then silence. He left, and I sat there. I sat with my coffee and realized I had spent 30 years trying to survive a man who would never be satisfied unless I was broken. That day, something in me snapped back into place. The hatred I had swallowed for years rose up like a wave. I hated how he treated me, our kids, and the world. I hated the lies, the manipulation, the joyless life we were stuck in. I didn't leave that day, but I started planning, quietly, smartly, desperately. Because I knew if I didn't leave, I wouldn't survive, not as me. So, she says right here that this is part 1 of I guess it's a series that she's writing about escaping a narcissistic abuser after decades of control. Interesting. She says that it's her story, it's messy and scary, twisty and ugly sometimes. It sucks to be married with someone that's a narcissist. It's not good. It's draining. I feel like in a way you're losing your mind. But let me know what you think. Have you ever been in a very abusive marriage or relationship, perhaps friendship, family-wise, that you know that they're a narcissist, but they don't see it, or they don't want to see that in themselves, and they're just in denial. Okay, so this one is interesting. When I saw the title of this story of the person explaining, I was like, oh, I think my brother was in a way abusive emotionally, but I also think he was abusive physically, which sucks. Sometimes it runs in the family. Sometimes it's just them, the way that they grew up and their beliefs. But this story says abusive siblings, ? Lately, I've began to wonder why I have a tendency toward abusive relationships, despite my upbringing being so positive with truly loving and wonderful parents. A dad who worshipped my mother and to this day talks so highly of her, never raised his voice at her nor his hand. Recently, I've started to truly look at my brother from a different light, as I long have known him to have some real toxic traits, one of which is abusive language. We shared a workspace sometimes, and on very regular occurrences, I hear him berating someone in customer service on the phone. It gets so bad, I sometimes just have to leave as it's very triggering to me. Today I confronted him about it, and he said I was a doormat, and that's why I don't demand things from people like he does. My current partner has used abusive language towards me, and I hate it. Funny enough, he has a disdain for my brother and his behavior, despite them having quite a strong similarity in their behaviors. I am very close to my brother, interestingly enough, but always hated this trait of his. When I was younger, I remember grabbing my hair. I remember him grabbing my hair so hard and screaming at me. He is no longer physically aggressive, but his words and temper can be horrible to witness. And she says here, just some food for thought as I look at both my relationship and my family and my partner. There is certainly a link. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, my brother was very abusive, emotionally and physically. I remember, I don't know why, can't forget this scenario that happened in real time. But, as I was growing up, I was in a way rebellious with my mom. And I remember my brother was driving us home, and when we got to the house, like him and I were kind of arguing because I was not gonna let him like tell me something. Like, who are you? You're my brother, yes, but you're not my parent. And I think he got so used to being verbally abusive with one of my sisters and a little bit with me, and I was defending myself. And he yelled at me, but I think I got a little bit too emotional that I just stopped defending myself, and I'm like, whatever. But then I talked to my parents about it, and my dad talked to him. But yeah, it's very triggering. It's just knowing how you grew up can, in a way, affect your relationship. And the long term, like if you don't go to a therapist, which you don't have to go to, to see a therapist, but I think it's interesting. The way that we grow up and our environment could affect us in the long way. Okay. So moving on to the other story. This one says, I'm not even allowed to ask why anymore. Just one question triggered him. I feel like my existence is too much. So this is related to, again, emotional abuse. Today I asked a simple why to him. It was out of pure curiosity, and he exploded. He started cursing at me, furious that I had dared to ask a question. I've been walking on eggshells for so long. I've learned not to confront him, not to push back, or to even speak unless necessary, because I know what happens if I do. My hands are still shaking as I write this. I'm a naturally curious person. Maybe it's the way my brain is wired, and maybe it's my autism. Yes, I sometimes ask a lot of questions. I actually do ask a lot of questions. That's how I connect, how I learn, how I make sense of the world. But he tells me that every time I ask him something, he feels the urge to strangle me. It's not like I'm interrogating him. If he orders tea instead of coffee one day, I might ask why, because I find those little choices interesting. I like sharing things like, I took a different route home because the trees look beautiful, or I changed my order today because I saw a post about matcha and suddenly craved it. These little things are meaningful to me. They're how I connect. But he says no one else in the world asked this many questions. That when I speak, he feels accused. But that's my curiosity. Feels like an attack. So I've stopped talking. I've tried to shrink myself down. I just want to feel safe being who I am. I want to feel safe asking a question. I want to be able to talk about normal things, tiny decisions, random thoughts. I want to communicate these things without being made to feel like a burden. Right now, he makes me feel like my existence itself is exhausting. That simply asking questions makes me unlovable, and I feel like I'm drowning. Honestly, I would leave this relationship. It's hard. It's easy to say and it's hard to do. But this person, it's either really dislikes you, not I don't like to use the word hate, but perhaps dislikes you and maybe doesn't love you anymore. I truly don't know. Or maybe he's seeing someone else. But I say, even though it's hard, especially if we are attached to this person, I would rather leave before it gets too serious. We just never know. Especially when he said that every time she asks him something, he feels the urge to strangle her. And that's dangerous. Because in a way, like, he's warning her what he could do and can do. So honestly, I would just leave that relationship. How scary. Okay, on to the last story. I think it's the last story. This one made me feel really sad just reading the title. I haven't read the story. I was waiting to read the story with you all, but this one made me feel really, really sad. So this one is titled, "My boyfriend left me to miscarry alone. Now he's acting shocked I'm leaving." That part alone, she was left alone and while she miscarried. That person, not the woman, not the female, but the guy, what a coward. In my personal opinion. So she's saying, "I miscarried our baby and my boyfriend didn't want to see me while it was happening. His response was, 'Sorry you miscarried,' over a text. He said he wasn't sure about us because of all of our arguments that only existed because he refused to take accountability for emotionally abusing me. I ended it with him. He told me that if I hadn't cracked it over him not seeing me while miscarrying, then he would have spent time with me, as if that's supposed to make me feel better. I know he only said that to shut me up. The truth is, he never had any intention of being there for me. He left me to go through it completely alone. Today I messaged him to let him know when I'd come to collect my things. He said he wants space, but doesn't mean he wants to break up. I told him I don't care what he wants. No one who loves someone leaves them to miscarry by themselves. Then he said he was actually considering seeing me this weekend. Like, wow, what a prince. I told him I don't care because he said that last weekend when I got upset too. He can tell I'm finally truly done. I told him he can have all the space he wants. He's single now and he acted confused and shocked like this came out of nowhere. LOL. I honestly feel like I've just snapped out of his brainwashing. It's also upsetting how he still texted me good night, sweet dreams, like everything else was fine. Everything is not fine. I want to scream, but I also feel free. Girl, I'm so glad you left this relationship. He's a coward for leaving you alone because it wasn't just you that was carrying a baby. He was also responsible because both of y'all got pregnant. Well, he, in a way, like, put the seed, right, like in your stomach, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, through something so sad and so emotional. So I'm glad you left. He doesn't deserve you. And I just feel like when someone is in love, we either are very blinded by love, which it can happen. I think it's part of life. But I'm just glad that that's over and that you decided to end things, and I hope that you are single, or if you're with someone, I hope that you're happy, and I hope that you're doing okay. But I think that's it for today, you guys. It's super early in the morning. It's around it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what happens to my brain, where I get very creative during the nighttime and I'm kind of lazy during the daytime. I don't know why, I'm just like that. But this was fun for the first episode. Well, it wasn't fun. It was tough because of all the stories that I was reading. But I've been wanting to do this podcast for a very long time, and I'm finally doing it. So that part I'm really happy. But like I said, this episode was really tough. Knowing that maybe some of us have gone through some kind of abusive, like emotional or mentally, or perhaps sexual abuse. So I will leave more information if you need any help. I'll leave it in the description box. I'll leave the National Domestic Violence Hotline, the number if you want to text them, as well as the website link. So that is it for today. Please be safe, be well, and take care of yourself. Until next time.